All right. Well, I know we're already a little over, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Because of this too, it's a stable talk, but this talk was originally designed to be more of an hour-long talk, so we've cut down like 75% of it and try to put it into as much as we can. So if you guys have any specific questions or anything, feel free to ask us afterwards, and we're pretty talkative.
Who are we? No one really cares. We're just going to talk about, again, we're going to talk about PCI, baseline configurations, things like that versus real-world attacks. Let's get on with it and go. Checkbox security isn't a bad start, but it's just that. It's a start. It doesn't make your security, it's not a comprehensive thing. It's just a start. Tim, let's...
Yeah, there's some that are genuinely concerned. When you do security, most of them are, if you see a lot of corporations, they follow frameworks and compliance and standards. Oh, we're doing this pen test because it's PCI compliant. And so that's the only driving factor behind their security culture. And that's kind of what this talk is about. It's aiming at getting away from just doing security for the sake of doing security and minimum efforts, and then overlooking some possible compromises.
So, again, for the record, this is, again, really high level. I don't want to read all of the points one by one, but it's really hard to cut all this stuff down really quick, you feel like. Anyway.
Threats and limitations equals a false sense of security. Hey, I did a PCI pen test. Okay, cool. What'd you do? Well, we did segmentation testing. Oh, that's cool. We did some network scans and tests. Here's this NSS output and this 50-page, pen test report. And then they accept that. This is the way it works. And QSAs oftentimes will be like, oh, okay, that's good to go. And then this company and the client, those that, may not have a full grasp of the risks that are out there, accept that. And they're like, okay, well, cool, we're good. And it's instilling this false sense of security. It's like going to a self-defense class, taking one self-defense class and saying, I'm good to go because I know 3 techniques. And it's just not how it works.
So, we talk about scoping. Clients often are very poor at scoping. They come in and say, hey, we're a huge network, but here are 400 IPs, and, oh yeah, the domain controller is out of scope. So don't hit that. Okay, well, I'm not connecting to your network then. So, those are things to consider. Like, what are you putting in the scope? Then you've got, attackers, they often take the approach of, focusing on low-hanging fruit. So they come in and they're able to plug in, and they look at all the things that you excluded the assessors from looking at. There's so much that's left wide open. So,
well, even with the low-hanging fruit, it's not always, when we think of low-hanging fruit, we think, oh, okay, well, this is an outdated Apache web server, or they didn't have this Microsoft patch or whatever, just the easy exploitable stuff. But low-hanging fruit is beyond just the technical aspect. When you look at security threats, you look at social engineering, it's one of the main catalysts for compromises, right? And oftentimes, they don't include that in those tests. They don't include it in the networking, or the pen test. They just focus on, okay, well, segmentation. And I'm not harping just on PCI. This is for a lot of standards. Even if you look at NIST and stuff, people just use this and they just go by, oh, are we out of compliance or do we fail here? That's all I worry about. It's all you worry about is your grade card, and that doesn't embody the full encompassing thing of security culture.
Yeah, and then there's the whole idea of, hey, let's make sure we get this checkbox checked so that we're not having to pay money in fines. And that's their whole motivator in, their security. So, legitimate concerns for the company. So, let's say you're a bank. Obviously, your legitimate concern is not letting an attacker get to client information, credit card numbers, things like that. So you've got to consider these things whenever you're having a penetration test done. Don't just come in and say, hey, it's trying to get, domain admin. That might not be the jackpot for the point of the assessment. You've got to consider, why are you having this test performed? So.
And outside of just, the why, identifying those risks and thinking outside of the box, thinking outside of just, oh, I don't want them to get access to this. This is my most sensitive area or my most sensitive data. thinking about the smaller stuff. It is the low-hanging fruit that's often the window that you break to get into the big, metal building or whatever. I mean, it's the easy way in, and a lot of people overlook that stuff, especially when it comes to the human element of social engineering and physical security as well.
So, something that I hear all the time, and it's really stupid, is when someone comes in, they do a vuln scan, and they pass it off as a pen test. So just to be clear, a vuln scan is not a penetration test. Make sure you have assessors that are actually exploiting things, are actually checking out things, and not just, coming in and running Nessus or, Nmap or something like that, and then giving you all the output from that. So, and then, IP range versus individual IPs. So, again, this is kind of what I touched on a few minutes ago. They only provide certain IPs. Why not just give us full access? Let us come in there like a real world attacker would do. Whatever they can get, they're going to go after. So, stop limiting the assessors as well.
And the risk with that, I know from kind of the Blues team side is, well, you could break something. We don't want you to hit this box, or we don't want you to do this because, this is a legacy application, and, it's been sitting on this ancient artifact forever, and I don't want you touching it because you might break it. And that's when you need to look at your infrastructure. If it's that easy to knock something over too, there's a risk there. Denial of service is very, very often, it is not included in pen tests, at least the ones we do, because people are afraid of denial of service. You can run checks all you want, but does it actually work? Things like that. And setting this up, there's safe ways of doing this. If you do have a dev environment or, a test environment, there's ways of doing this and replicating that same kind of threat, even outside of just the human elements.
Yep. And as Tim talked about, legacy systems and things like that, what does your development lifecycle look like with your applications and things? Do you have patch management? Are you actually keeping those things up to date and keeping an eye on that? Or do you just wait until once a year when a group of guys come in and do an assessment and say, hey, here's 1,000 outdated, whatever. So you got to keep touch on those things. You got to make sure to keep them up to date and follow through with those. And legacy, I understand that that's a need for certain things, but, really, you can't get something redeveloped to secure something, especially if it's that important that you have to keep it around that long. Maybe put some effort into, fixing that. So.
A long time ago, security was always kind of at the bottom of the totem pole when it came to priority. It was production, or whatever. At least in my experiences. And I think that, because of these big compromises that you see, it's becoming a lot more prevalent and important, and it's raising up finally in tiers. So you do have ways to justify doing more extensive stuff like this. And if we go on to the next slide here, we mentioned weighing your risk and such, but the most important thing I think on this slide is the comprehensive security awareness training program. Most of the time, people will just say, oh yeah, we do an annual security awareness training. We have some online quiz. They click through. They send blah, 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 their supervisor. Hey, they did this. They got an 80 out of 100. It happens, and that's fine. But you're just recycling the same old junk. And forgive me for saying that, but, a lot of times it's the same old stock content of generic security awareness stuff, or straight out of your policies, and there's a lot of corporate verbiage thrown into it. But you miss a lot of connecting with the people and saying, hey, here's some threats, here's some real life examples, here's stuff that can that can apply to your personal life too, even outside of work. We're all part of this. The human firewall is so prevalent as one of the first layers of security for whatever your compliance or whatever ISO or PCI tells you to test. It's the culture and shaping your employee body into really supporting that.
Your employee body.
My employee body.
So incident handling and response, you guys, is that covered? Or, what do you do when shit hits the fan? So partial disclosure, full disclosure, going in cold. So when you have an assessment, what is it? Are you providing a scope, or are they just plugging in and seeing what they can get to? Or are you providing, full code for code reviews and everything? So, you've got to look at what you what you've done, what needs to happen as far as like your current security posture for your company. If you've never done any assessments or anything before, you probably want to consider what can you do to start from the ground up instead of just what can we do right now to just get a checkbox. So,
and some of the ways, well, how do we handle incident handling and response? I know some pen tests are only like a week long, right? Well, you can spend that first day just doing it from an external perspective. If you're doing kind of a partial whitelist, hey, no shunning type of approach, there's still ways to still kind of have that view outside of it. Yet, granted, you don't have as much time to try to do that. But even with on-site stuff, you're doing a red team or some kind of covert physical or social engineering. I know oftentimes we use the fake letter of authorization to test incident response. So we'll do stuff to try to intentionally get caught. And then when they catch us, we give them the fake letter and they look at it and, oh yeah, you're good to go. And they don't call or follow through. So, hey, your incident response sucks when it comes to that layer of security. Don't just test the technical layer of security because, once you're in, you drop some Dropbox or whatever, then, you're in. Oh, well, we're good because you have to be connected to our network. Well, you have an open network jack in your lobby that has DHCP connected to your production network. Are you kidding me?
In the guest area.
And that's happened. So.
Yeah. Next to the water fountain. So, scopeless pen testing. This obviously I think is ideal, but when you look at the reality of things, that's usually a lot of money. Usually not in the budget, unfortunately. So, let's say ideal, scopeless pen testing. So you include the entire gamut. Let us do social engineering. Let us come in. Let's look at physical. Let's just everything. How can we try to gain unauthorized access into anything? Obviously, again, unless you have more money than you know what to do with, that's not necessarily always possible, but definitely things to consider. Instead of just focusing on an internal assessment, as Tim and I have talked about, also include the other areas as you're able to.
There's a lot of pen test companies out there that do just, for their external penetration assessment, they do just focus on the network and application layers. They don't include the social engineering aspect. And, you have to wonder, with the amount of compromises, that happen, and it being because of phishing or cold calls or whatever, that this stuff is a big issue. And it's time for, not only us as pen testers, but, the blue side that you guys, we have to work together to try to understand what you're trying to protect and how you can protect it. And it's not this, and Jason Street did an awesome talk. I think it was at one of the B-sides, where he had talked about this red versus blue thing and getting rid of that nonsense. And I think it's so important, especially for this kind of checkbox approach, that we get rid of this. Well, here's how we can safely talk to these pen tester guys and what we kind of want to do, and really just listen. And have open conversation and dialogue. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And, something I've heard too, it's a good analogy. It's like, whenever we go in and do an internal pen test or external or whatever it is, you have the guys that have worked at the company for years and they maybe even help set up the network. And so they're confident that you're not going to find anything, or maybe they don't want the extra work when you do. And so it's basically the equivalent of walking into a place and telling someone that their baby is ugly. It doesn't usually, it doesn't go over very well. So just kind of changing that mentality of, help us help you, is also a good way to approach it. So.
Yeah, we've already, I think we already touched on this slide. Can we just walk in? Probably. I have RFID cloners and all that stuff, but who cares? You don't need it. Because oftentimes people they don't pay attention to the color of the badge or the sound or anything like that. They just see that you have something around your neck that looks like kind of what they have around their neck, and you're good to go. But people don't, consider that. Yeah, you could have all the no piggybacking, no tailgating signs you want. But when people become this very routine, especially if there's a large volume of traffic coming in and out of places, or there's a lot of contractors that come in and out, it's so easy to just walk in.
Yep.
And so, even if you have a guy on site doing a test, hey, he's here for a partial disclosure. Everybody knows he's here. He signs the visitor log, blah, blah, blah. Give the pen tester a day to just see if he can walk in and get to wherever it is he normally plugs in. If he does, then you've kind of you've weaseled a little free assessment of that kind of first layer of security on a internal network test.
Let's see, external. So externally, let the person doing the assessment look at your digital footprint. Utilizing open source intelligence, are they able to quickly find anything that's unsecure, or maybe your developer asked for help a few years ago on a development forum and provided legitimate database credentials for someone to help, and those are still active, and I've actually found that through a web assessment before, unfortunately. Look for things like that, or I've even found usernames or database credentials, or even the entire database schema from someone asking for help, and that stuff was archived and no longer required access to that email account thanks to Google. And I was able to utilize those credentials just from doing some basic searching through the internet. Again, and that kind of opens up, like, let us go after anything that you have, like anything that you own that's connected to the internet. Let us see, especially Internet of Things. I mean, a lot of that stuff sucks. It's pretty easy to get into that, leverage those things. So those are just things to consider when you are having an assessment coming up. Don't, be limited to kind of screw yourself over, essentially.
An attacker doesn't have rules of engagement. They don't care. They have all the time in the world, too, if they're sitting there slowly picking at you. And, so when you consider this stuff, it's like, oh, okay, well, we want a good real-world view of how vulnerable we are. Okay, cool. So here's kind of our attack methodology, what we use. You guys go, well, we're not really comfortable with this because it could make our employees not trust us, or, we can't do this because of blah, blah, blah. And I'm sorry, but you're not getting a real-world attack vantage or view. And even if you have one pen tester come in, maybe that pen tester is not going to find everything that some, government-funded cyber terrorism group is going to find. So it's things like this you need to consider too, and that's why I think you're also going to see that advanced persistent threat testing or APT testing is becoming more is being more accepted from clients. That they're a little open to doing like a longer engagement, like a 3 to 6 month engagement or something.
Yeah. And then they don't care who they fish. So a lot of times with social engineering stuff, they will exclude CEOs or anyone sort of in that arena, any executives, because they don't want to offend that person. They don't want to inconvenience that person. An attacker doesn't care. That's usually the first person they go after anyway. Who has the most access? So let's go after the admin group or the CEO who feels like he also has to have admin access for whatever reason.
Stronger security awareness programs. If you have remote offices outside of your corporate office and you have people coming in, what happens is you get caught in this grind, in this routine. You do your thing, and if that routine's disrupted, sometimes you don't even notice. For example, recent engagement I did was a social engineering engagement. I had a keylogger on me. They didn't have badges, but I made a fake badge anyway and said I was from corporate. And I walked in. It was just two ladies working in an office. I told them I was there to fix the network connectivity. Had they been having some issues? And of course, everybody has network connectivity issues, and they let me plug in and do my thing. But they didn't ask. They didn't look at, where did those badges come from, or who are you again, or call to confirm.
You also brought them coffee too.
I also brought them coffee too. Yeah. Like was really tired, and I was like, I'm gonna get some coffee. You know what? I'm gonna use this, and I got like 3 cups of coffee. I was like, hey guys, I got some coffee. So, but yeah, it's. You're not a jerk for, what happens is some employees they feel like they're being a jerk if they question anybody or challenge anybody. Oh, this dude's walking behind me, he didn't scan his badge. Well, I've seen him here before several times. I know that he works here. Well, how do you know he didn't get fired like the day before? And he's now, really mad. It's things like this to consider outside of just the generic vanilla security awareness programs.
Yep.
So regular reporting for compliance, broader windows, open scopes, specific drills, etc. These are different ways of doing a more robust security awareness program. One of the things that that we do is we have a training where it's kind of a Q&A, a hacker Q&A. You have your PowerPoints, you talk about different ways you do stuff, and they get to see tools be demonstrated or whatever. This is always a good way. It leaves a good impression. Doing an on-site assessment or whatever that involves like social engineering is always great because sometimes you can have that as part of your training. Well, last year, Brent, or whatever, here's what happened. You allowed so-and-so. You're not pointing out individuals, but you get the idea that sticks into people. That's real things that happen to those companies too. And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that happened. That's crazy. And it sticks with people more than just checking on some, freaking interactive quiz that you'd have to take once a year.
Yeah, and something that Tim and I like to do with the security awareness training that we provide is that when we're going in and we actually show people, okay, here, this is an under the door tool. Here's how it works. And we show a video, or these are lockpick sets. You pick lock. And another thing that really gets attention is when you have a rogue access point on or something like the Wi-Fi Pineapple, and while you're giving the talk, you're actually getting people's phones to connect to you, and then you can show that on the screen, and they say, oh, crap, that's my phone. Well, then you have their attention. Or same with Bluetooth, things like that. And like Tim said, it goes beyond the boring, just click PowerPoint test that you do sitting at a computer where everybody just, searches, does a Control F through the PDF document and then
poster with a hook that says fish.
So they're not really studying like, oh, I've got to study this. I've got to really pass this test today. They don't care. They just want to move through it. But when you can give them a real world example like that, you're going to get their attention and they're going to remember that more. So, again, that kind of goes, well, you're doing the same old thing with the same minimal results. Not just security awareness, but again with your internal, external assessments and so on.
And the disaster recovery too, disaster recovery, business continuity, oftentimes you have to do a test for that. You have to do your annual disaster recovery test or whatever. You can always include this as part of your tabletop exercises and stuff too. Think outside of the box, outside of just the kind of standard structure of security awareness and, disaster recovery and business continuity is a part of that, especially when you look at denial of service or, physical threats. Yeah. What all of it boils down to is culture and instilling this security culture into your company, into your executives, the guys and gals that make the decisions. It's very important that they're on board, and I think that this is always a good eye opener to do this. I know one time we did a wireless security assessment. One of the executives, we had like an evil AP up, and he connected to it, and we were able to pull down some of his exchange credentials, and so he was very open to what we had to say after we were able to do that. There was another time, the point of contact, he was like, yeah, you guys can do whatever. You're not going to be able to do whatever. You're not going to be able to do anything or gain access to anything.
I love when they say that.
Yeah. And in the HR room, like where they keep all the employee files, the lights were off, but it was open. And there were cubicles. And the cubicles were blocking that door so they couldn't see unless they stood up. So I snuck in there. I was really digging through it, and I found his employee file, and I went over to him, and I laid it on his desk, and he was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Man, it's more than just that. It's more than just what you're thinking of a pen test or a physical assessment or whatever you shape it or verbiage you use for the types of attack methodologies that you guys have. But it's more than that, and I think that it's important that we all, as a InfoSec community, offense, defense, whatever, executives, people that never touch a keyboard, that we all get on board with." Listening to everybody and having open dialogue about real risk, real threats, and how can we help instill this culture into our people.
Yep. And so again, we had to cut this down extensively. So that is basically it for us. I know we're at time, so if anybody has any questions, we'll be out in the hallway if you want to chat for a bit. But thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.